It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Jen Cohen as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it's great to have you in studio today. We are sitting down with the Department of Public Safety, Captain John Seeley. Welcome to studio.
Morning. Thanks.
And Trooper Randy Wybron. Welcome to studio.
Thank you.
We're going to be hearing more from Randy. She is now the official PIO for the northern region of the state. We got our own PIO up here.
That's correct.
After years of trying. So let me ask you that real fast. And we talked about it a little bit before the show, but you're going to be available to talk about all of northern Arizona, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. All right, so when we have questions, we'll be able to call Randy, and Randy will be able to give us some sound and tell us what's going on. Not that it's difficult to get information out of DPS, because they're very good about it. Website for you, azdps.gov. I've got some papers in front of me. That's where I went for the information that we're going to be talking about today, azdps.gov. This past weekend and the weekend prior, and Captain Seeley was telling me before the show that there really are no down weekends anymore when it comes to traffic. But I did notice that this last weekend, there was some closures on 17 going on, and on a regular basis, 17 seems to be kind of a problem. I think everybody up here knows that between Phoenix and Sunset Point Rest area, it kind of tends, and now even Cordes Junction, we're getting some of that happening there. But we're getting those typical closures that happen, and people are getting stuck in traffic for hours. This last weekend, there was no complete closure, was there, of 17 northbound?
No. I think everything was pretty much to allow for the emergency personnel to get to the fire.
Right.
If there was, it may have been to reposition some of the equipment, but for the most part, we had just had the single lane closure.
And there was a brush fire near Cordes Junction, which is odds are dragging metal, dragging chains, something was dragging, or somebody flicked a cigarette out the window and it set fire to the landscape on the side. But what I'm always shocked at is, okay, we've got one lane open, but traffic just backs up for miles, and you say that's just kind of run-of-the-mill anymore.
Yeah, it very much is, and and I think when you look at the volume of traffic, especially during the summer months, and when you target Friday and Sunday when people are transitioning between the down in Phoenix and the valley where the heat is, and then north, you put that much traffic and you whittle it down to one lane, and with the restriction, it just gets bottlenecked really fast. Yeah. Within a few minutes, you're probably looking at a mile or more backup, and it just grows from there, exponentially grows from there. So we just ask the public to remain vigilant. One of the things we typically see is someone's got a camera out, a phone out, trying to film what's going on, and unfortunately they bump into someone ahead of them. So stay focused on your traveling or your driving, because we do have emergency personnel out there. We want you to be cognizant of them out there, and hopefully not collide with them. So
yeah, we've done a few stories with some fire agencies too that have talked about how they've had some collisions recently. We had the bad crash down in the Phoenix area with a fire truck, and some people died in that as well. So yeah, it's just better. I think I always called it rubbernecking.
Yes.
Yeah, but now we're rubber filming. Rubber. Okay. What's your kind of area that you patrol, Randy? Is it patrol or?
Yes, patrol.
Yeah, patrol. Okay.
I'm assigned to patrol, and I cover Cottonwood, Sedona area mostly, but we also cover down with our district and for the Verde Valley area down to Carefree. So we have some of Maricopa County. Oh wow! And we also cover about 5 miles north of Stoneman Lake, so we touch a little bit into Coconino County. Okay. And we cover a lot of the Sedona area, State Route 89A, as well as Jerome, some of Cottonwood. So we're all over the place.
260?
260?
260 is DPS. 89A over the mountain between Jerome and Prescott?
Yes.
That's DPS.
Correct.
And then Highway 179 into Sedona, DPS. Correct. You guys got tons of road to cover.
Yes, and we work a lot with other agencies because we tend to break up some of the mile posts. So sometimes we have to assist, or we ask for assistance from Sedona or Cottonwood or Jerome. And
sure.
Things like that.
Makes sense, yeah. Yeah, there's that collaboration between agencies is a really good thing anymore. Yeah.
We're very fortunate up here that there's a good working relationship with all the agencies. Everybody's shorthanded, and where we can augment and vice versa, where they can augment our staffing. If you noticed out on I-17 when we have some of these major incidents, Yavapai County Sheriff's Office, they've been a great partner with us, and they will step in and help where needed. Same thing with any agency. I mean, they've all been phenomenal up here. So we're very fortunate to have the support of the agency heads and the agency personnel themselves. They come out and help us all the time. So we do appreciate it.
I'll ask people, say, hey, there's a crash on such and such, and I'll be like, okay, so what agency did you see there? Well, we saw YCSO, DPS was there, Copper Canyon Fire was there. I'm like, okay, so who's actually going to be the one in charge of this? And then once I narrow down the road, of course, I know who it's going to be. But yeah, it is a collaboration anymore. And you hear that with the fire agencies too, which is fantastic. Let's talk about some of the stuff maybe we should have in our car or our truck. When we're driving down the road, we've got spring right now, and the weather's kind of back and forth. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's not. Weather Service says it's going to start heating up again here, and it's pretty much going to be that trend all the way through monsoon season. So there's certain things we should have in our car because 4-mile backup, 5-mile backup on 17 over the weekend. The road wasn't closed, but you're going to be sitting there for a while crawling along. But sometimes it does get shut down, and you don't go anywhere for hours. We've seen that too. I mean, right? It just happens sometimes.
Yep. Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, and those big hills at the Sunset Point area just seem to be the kind of a key location where those things happen, and we get multiple vehicle crashes, sometimes the fatalities, and then an investigation has to be conducted, and you can't move everything off the road just right away. So what are some of the things we should have in our vehicle this time of year? There's a summer kit and there's a winter kit. The winter kit, we could probably put that one away.
Yes.
But summer kit should be coming out. So can we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Okay. Water is a must. Not just drinking water for yourself and your passengers, but also water for your radiator in case you need to top off any fluids. If you can carry antifreeze or any type of coolant, that's also a good thing to have. A blanket is a really good idea if you have a thick blanket or any extra towels lying around the house to keep in your car. If you have to do a tire change, you can lay on that. The asphalt gets very hot. Or you can use it to help cover yourself if there's rain or you need shade.
That is a really good point to make, and DPS is always good about bringing that one up too, and I wouldn't think about that. But yeah, when you get out of the car to go change a tire, the asphalt is hot.
It's very hot.
So it was always brought, bring a towel or something you put down on the ground, so when because you're going to be wearing shorts, odds are, and flip-flops or something like that, so you're going to kneel down on the ground, it's going to be really hot, but if you got that on there, boom, you're good to go then, okay? Keep going. What else should we have in there?
A shovel's good to have. You can use a shovel if you have to dig yourself out if you become stuck, but also if you have a fire, you can help throw some dirt onto a brake fire, engine fire. If you have gas in your vehicle fire, you don't necessarily want to put water because that could help spread the fire. So dirt can help you in situations, and there's dirt everywhere in Arizona. So a small shovel, if you can keep a small one. Now we have the folding tactical shovels, what we like to call them. A gas can, if you run out of gas and you need to get gas. A lot of times people don't have a gas can to put the gas in.
I don't.
Okay, so just a smaller gas can would be helpful. Have snacks with you, have food. If you have little ones and diapers, always bring some extra diapers or extra formula just in case if you're going to be within that closure or pulled off for a long time, you're going to need some food to keep everyone okay. A spare tire. A lot of these newer vehicles don't come with spare tires. They have a little compressor that have like a fix-a-flat liquid, and some people don't realize that. So if you're in a rental vehicle, please check your trunk. Make sure you have a spare. Before you take your road trip, check your spare anyway. Bounce it around a couple times to see if it's low on air, if you need to have that pumped up a little bit before you take your road trip. And some of the vehicles that we stop out with to help with changing tires, they have fancier rims on them that require a key to take the lug nuts off, and some people aren't aware of where that key is. So know where your spare is, know if you have a spare, know where that key is, and make sure you have a tire iron so you are able to take off those lug nuts.
There's a key to take your hubcap off?
Some vehicles,
really?
Some vehicles have a key, and some people aren't aware of that. And most times it's in the glove box, but some people, if they've just purchased the vehicle or have never had to change that tire, they don't know how to get to it. And we've also come into contact with a lot of vehicles that have their spares set up in kind of a funky way. For example, some of the SUVs, there's a hole in the back of the bumper where you actually have to remove a cap, and you have to connect pieces of your tools for the jack together in order to wind it down. And sometimes people aren't aware of where those tools are or where that compartment is. So just take a quick inventory of your vehicle and know what to do in case you do have to change a spare.
Get to know your car. We're going to take a first break already, okay? Captain John Seeley and Trooper Randy Wybron from DPS are in studio today. Website is azdps.gov. Tons of information on there. Stick around. Countywide will be back in just a couple minutes.
What does it look like when a life is truly changed?
I feel a sense of accomplishment because I built a house. This house has brought us financial independence.
It's a great place to raise a family.
Strength, fuerza. When I look back where we've come from to where we are today, it makes my heart very happy.
Potential. Potencia.
For me, this house means all of us together.
Sorry. Together.
Security.
Security.
Every family dreams to have their own house. This house changed our lives.
Habitat for Humanity is at work in your community and around the world. Through shelter, we empower.
We develop quality citizens who keep our core, our country, and our communities side by side on the winning side. Not for glory, but for honor. For a code that isn't written or spoken, but lived. It's what we do. It's who we are. It's the battle cry of our fighting spirit. Battles won. See all the battles Marines fight to win at marines.com.
Welcome back to Countywide. Department of Public Safety's Captain John Seeley and Trooper Randy Wybron in studio today. Website is azdps.gov. Now, we started talking about the summer kit and what should be in. Randy's been going through that, but there's a few more things we should probably have in that vehicle during the summer months.
A fire extinguisher is a great idea to have. It doesn't have to be a big, huge one. If you can get even just a small kitchen-sized one, you can use that. Also, jumper cables. And an extra car charger, or I'm sorry, a battery charger for your cell phone, especially if you've had to use your phone for GPS or having to do any messages along the way. You want to make sure you have an extra charger. Now they have these sticks where you can take basically an extra battery with you to plug into to charge it along your trip.
Okay, that should pretty much get people. And if you do break down, or DPS will, of course, stop if you're broke down the side of the road.
Yes.
I see that all the time where your mechanic's out there.
And we're a phone call away. So, and a lot of times we encourage people, because anymore with AAA or whatever insurance company you may be, you have some sort of tow service, there is going to be a delay usually. And if it's something that we can quickly stop out and help you with, get you back on the way, get you off the shoulder and away from maybe some exposure, we're going to try and do that. So it's one of those that, if you ever need help, call us. And unfortunately, we're limited. We're not mechanics. But if it's something we can help with, a changing of a flat or getting you to get some fuel, we're more than happy to do that.
Yeah, you don't want the car sitting on the side of the road.
No.
That's a bad place to be with anybody sitting in that car, too.
Well, it's nerve-wracking, for a lot of these folks, and understandably so. Yeah. Sitting there as people are going by you at freeway speed, so... we're a phone call away.
I saw it twice this last weekend coming home from our trip. Twice I saw DPS on the side of the road helping somebody with a flat tire. Car was jacked up, tire was down, and there was DPS right there helping out with the tire. So, yeah that's fantastic. You mentioned cell phones. Let's get onto that. Yes. Arizona has a distracted driving law. Goes into effect January of 2021. We get a whole year to learn how not to use our cell phone while driving.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I've been talking about it for 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years now, about distracted driving. But you guys got to be kind of thrilled about that.
Yes, hands-free is the way to go. We often encounter drivers who aren't even looking at the roadway. They're looking on their phone while they've got one hand on the wheel. Sometimes they're actually driving with their knees and they're texting while driving. And I've personally been alongside a vehicle that didn't see me for almost 2 miles alongside while she was texting on her phone. So we're very excited to be able to enforce that a little more thoroughly now.
Yeah.
I want a DPS trooper and car in my pocket, so when I see it when I drive home and stuff, I could just throw you down the road and say, go get that one.
Yeah.
Because I see that all the time now, where people, I think we forget that we're in a vehicle that weighs thousands of pounds, and we're basically just a rocket ship going down the road.
Absolutely.
And I've tried. Back in the day, I tried texting and driving. I couldn't handle it. It was just too much to try to do all of this at the same time. And then they say you travel something like 50 yards in 5 seconds or 100 yards in 5 seconds. I mean, you're moving. You're doing 75, 80 down the interstate.
Yep, it's important to keep in mind all of your defensive driving. So basically just your situational awareness and knowing where traffic is and what's going on, especially with your following distance, and we can get into that soon. But when you're following a vehicle, you need to allow yourself a grace period, a cushion, if you will, in case they have a blowout or they have to brake or they swerve, or in northern Arizona we have a lot of animals in the roadway. What if a deer runs out? So texting is a big problem because it contributes to collisions. People running off of the road because they're not paying attention, or reaching for their phone if they drop it and running off the road, or crashing into another vehicle because they're not paying attention to them ahead of them or to the roadway in general.
I do practice that rule of defensive driving. There's offensive drivers, which, do we call them offensive drivers anymore, or is that aggressive driving?
Aggressive driving, yes.
That's aggressive driving now, isn't it? And then there's the defensive driver who, you got to stay, what is it? Is it 2 car lengths back from the vehicle in front of you?
Well, we recommend, the Arizona Driving Manual refers to what's called a 3 to 6 second rule. So it's basically about 4 seconds. So what you'll do is, if you have a vehicle ahead of you, if they pass either a sign or an underpass or something you can measure, even a tree, you want to count 1001, 1002, 1003. Once you've reached 1003, if you've passed that same object that you began counting at, you're following too close. It basically is 4 seconds. So freeway speed, 65 and 75 miles an hour, you want to give yourself about 6 seconds of following distance. And that's something that we measure when we're enforcing. We also use that same method. So it's good for the public to be aware of that. Give yourself 3 to 6 seconds.
Well, when you think your perception reaction time, I think there's been several studies out there, but the average number I've heard is about 1.5 seconds. And you'd mentioned the distance you travel every second. So your head's down, whether you're messing with a stereo or you're on your phone or whatever, look up, now perceive an issue, and then trying to react to that issue. You've already covered an enormous amount of distance, especially when we're talking at 75 miles an hour or whatever the freeway speed is. So that's where we're encouraging people to give yourself a buffer. You may feel, I'm in control of this piece of equipment here. It's not always you that's going to have the issue. It's probably a motorist next to you or some mechanical issue. So giving yourself the extra room would afford you then to have some opportunity to assess what's going on and then react accordingly. So we encourage people to just give some more room. And I know it's difficult with people shuttling in from both lanes and then they pull out in front of you. But there's nothing worse, obviously, than it going wrong way, in the sense that you now have a collision, you don't get to your destination. What's a few more minutes, a few more seconds if you allow for more room, and just enjoy the travel, the ride, get there safely is what we're asking. But that distance, having that buffer, if you will, that zone, safety zone, will probably save a lot of lives out there. I drive by those folks all the time that are sitting on the side of the road that broke down or crashed, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm so glad I'm not you right now, because my day is ruined if I am you. In the winter especially, with the roads being slippery and all. Even monsoon, when the rain starts and we've got the oils and stuff on the road, they get slicker too. So you're better off just slowing down a little bit and then making sure you get to where you need to. A to B it's much safer. And by the way, I do count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Okay. I do, just like that. All right, so that's distracted driving. There's the individual county, city, and town laws. Now, those are in effect are enforceable. The one that went statewide, which starts January 2021, right now it's warnings up until that moment, unless, of course, you're distracted driving and you cause some kind of a crash or something like that. Then I think that alters it a little bit. But yeah, there's definitely some changes coming as of 2021. We've got to take another break. Okay. Captain John Seeley, Trooper Randy Wybron in studio today. AZDPS.gov is the website. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
What does it look like when a life is truly changed?
I feel a sense of accomplishment because I built a house. This house has brought us financial independence.
It's a great place to raise a family.
Strength fuerza. When I look back where we've come from to where we are today, it makes my heart very happy.
Potential. Potencia.
For me, this house means all of us together.
Sorry. Together.
Security.
Security.
Every family dreams to have their own house. This house changed our lives.
Habitat for Humanity is at work in your community and around the world. Through shelter, we empower.
We develop quality citizens who keep our core, our country, and our communities side by side on the winning side. Not for glory, but for honor. For a code that isn't written or spoken, but lived. It's what we do. It's who we are. It's the battle cry of our fighting spirit. Battles won. See all the battles Marines fight to win at marines.com.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a few minutes left in the program, so we've talked about a lot of different stuff. Your summer kit, distracted driving, don't be distracted, drive defensively. Aggressive driving is what we used to call offensive driving, and now it's aggressive driving, so slow down, take your time. Roadside fires, we mentioned a little bit at the beginning of the show. Roadside fires, make sure you're not dragging chains. Don't flick cigarettes out the window, all that good stuff. Let's try to keep those at a minimum. We do have the Cinco de Mayo patrols coming up on the weekend. So we'll be having plenty of law enforcement activity throughout the Cinco de Mayo weekend starting Friday, lasting into Sunday.
Yes.
Is there a higher presence in general Friday to Sunday?
When you're talking about law enforcement, or
law enforcement presence,
usually it will coincide more so with the holiday weekends.
The holiday weekends.
You automatically expect that there's going to be an influx of traffic, and which usually there is. You're absolutely right, and so with that, I think a lot of the agencies around, probably statewide for that matter, will then bolster their patrol efforts and try and combat some of that, if you will. Just have the resources there for the added traffic.
Okay. People watching and people listening, you've seen their faces now. These are the people that roll up on these crashes at 75, 80 miles an hour. We have them all the time. They lead to fatalities. And it does not surprise me that most of the time when I get the information, the very last line I read, they were not wearing a seatbelt. And that just kind of boggles my mind. The Click It or Ticket campaign is coming up on May 20th through June 2nd. And all law enforcement, it'll be a zero tolerance across the state. If you're driving down the road and you see me without that shoulder belt, I'm going to get stopped.
Yeah. If you're committing another offense, yes, you will be stopped. And probably, I would say, speaking for at least DPS, we're going to be very aggressive in our enforcement. It's unfortunate, especially today, and looking at our total fatality scene for the state, that we still have the number of unrestrained occupants and especially drivers. A lot of times when these vehicles, when you lose control and exit the roadway, they're going to roll. It's just, you can't avoid it, it seems like, out there. And at least my experience has been, very rarely do you go, and when someone's left the roadway at freeway speeds, that their vehicle at some point hasn't rolled. And with that, there's nothing to keep you in place outside of that seatbelt, that restraint. Airbags, they're phenomenal a tool out there, but without that seatbelt, the airbags are meaningless for the most part.
Okay.
It's just one of those, we can't encourage people enough to continue to take the extra second, put that seatbelt on for their own safety.
There's got to be plenty of crash scenes you guys have rolled up on and said, if you'd just been wearing your seatbelt, you would still be here today.
Unfortunately,
and I would not be
true,
notifying next of kin.
Yeah. We just recently had a fatal, another, not in our district, where 3 of the occupants in the vehicle, 2 survived. 1 was not wearing a seatbelt and injected and did not. And the 2 that survived, they were, from what I understand, fairly minor injuries. I mean, they sustained injuries, but just because of the nature of the crash. But the 3rd occupant was not restrained, ejected, and died as a result of it. So.
We're out of time. Trooper Randy Wybron, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I'll be talking to you some more. It was really great meeting you. Captain John Seeley as well. I've been talking to you for a while, too, so it's nice to do a face-to-face as well. AZDPS.gov. As always, thank you so much for watching, listening. This has been today's Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time.